This is Gareth Southgate, and this is the Three Lions podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Three Lions podcast. My name is Russell Osborne and this is an independent England supporters podcast. I hope you're well, hope you're keeping safe. Now, in the past, I've been fortunate enough to speak with some players who have represented England, be it the senior men or some of the Lionesses. If you go back through threelionspodcast.com, you'll be able to listen back to the interviews with the likes of Gary Stevens, Clive Allen, David Seaman, Graham Lasso, Darius Vassell, and of course, the current England manager himself, Gareth Southgate. Fair few caps there, I'm sure you'll agree. Well, let's add two more caps. Recently, I had a Skype chat with Nicky Shorey, former left-back for Reading, Aston Villa, West Bromwich and Portsmouth, amongst many others. I'd like to thank him for his time in chatting to me. He is on Twitter, should you want to give him a follow, at Nicky Shorey 22. This is our chat that looks back at his time representing England. Now, I'd like to welcome to the Three Lions podcast, former Aston Villa, former Reading player and a few others. Welcome to Nicky Shorey. Nicky.
How are we, okay?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Yourself?
Yeah, no, not bad.
Good stuff, good stuff. Now, I first heard you on the Honest Football podcast, which is a great podcast to listen to, where you covered your club side of things, and you just, I wouldn't say brushed over England, but it was more club-based, and I thought, I want to hear more about England. So I'd like to hope that maybe you could elaborate a little bit more on England and your time.
Yeah, well, listen, it was... It still seems a bit surreal now when you talk about having played for England, and it was even more surreal at the time because we just got promoted with Reading. We'd only been in the Premier League one season, and listen, if you're going to get a cap as a left back in the era of Ashley Cole and Wayne Bridge, it's very difficult. You've got to sort of have a bit of luck. Fortunately, I think they might have both been injured, or one of them was injured and the other one wasn't. So, and it just come at a time when I was playing really well. We'd done really well with Reading as a team, and there was a bit of talk about it. The fans at Reading, started getting a chant going, and you never quite think it's going to happen, to be perfectly honest. And then until you actually get a call and someone says, "Listen, you're in the squad."
Who was it that told you?
Well, I first got a call. Steve Coppell pulled me and said that Steve McLaren was going to give me a ring. He gave me a ring. We had a chat, and in the summer it was a B game. I'm struggling to remember who it was against. It was Albania or something like that.
It was Albania.
Albania at Burnley, Turf Moor.
That's right.
So I initially got into that squad and played in that game. Went okay. And then got called up for the Brazil international in the summer as well. So it was just such a surreal and bizarre time that you're just trying to enjoy it. But obviously you want it to go well, so you're so focused that you don't sort of take it all in.
Well, what I'd kind of like to do is maybe just start from the beginning. That B game against Albania was actually the last B game that was ever played. Well, at this moment in time, the last England B game. What's the B game like? What's it like to be part of that? Do you still get all the sort of pomp and ceremony and that sort of thing?
Well, listen, that was my first ever game for England, so I didn't know what it was like before anyway. So it was just all new to me. But having them played in the other games, you was just treated exactly the same. I mean, there was some still, a lot of high-profile players playing in that game. A few sort of, untried like myself, younger players, which is what it was used for. But no, listen, anytime you're representing England, it doesn't matter if it's a B game or a full international. It's massive. It's massive.
Yeah, looking through some of the players that played in that particular game, I think everyone managed to convert themselves to a full senior cap. There was Scott Carson, Phil Neville, yourself, Gareth Barry, Ledley King, Michael Dawson, David Bentley, Jermaine Genius, Alan Smith, Michael Owen was there as well, and Aaron Lennon. So
that's right.
They all went on as yourself. And Steve McLaren was the manager of that B team, wasn't he?
Yes, yeah. Steve McLaren was the manager. He was the full international manager, obviously, as well at the time. So it was just, I think he had a game sort of to give us an opportunity to see, in the training camp and in the game, if he see what he liked and could trust us to then go into a full international scenario.
So that full international scenario came, I say that Albania game was when? That was May time. And then the first game at the new Wembley, and your senior debut was the Brazil game, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, listen, if you're going to get an opportunity to play for England, it doesn't really matter who you're playing against or what game. But if you can pick a game, I mean, the first one, Brazil, the new Wembley, first senior game at the new Wembley, I mean, it's sort of, that is a marker. It's going to go down in history. Your name's going to be associated with that. So if you could pick one, I mean, that is just out of this world. And then again against Germany later on, obviously they were both friendlies. It would have been nice to play, get on a pitch in the qualifier. I was on the bench a couple of times, but no, if you're going to pick games, they're two to pick, definitely.
Yeah, I was going to come on to some of those qualifiers, but that Brazil game, I mean, to me, as a supporter, had been traipsing around the country for the previous, 6-7 years, to finally go back to Wembley. It was exciting. It was like, this is the home of football. We're going back home. Was it a distraction, though, to sort of the players? Did you think, could you have done without it? Was a bit of the hype around it?
Well, in terms of going back to the new Wembley,
yeah, because
everything that went into it, the overspending, how long it took, and all that.
Yeah,
it didn't really. Not for me, anyway. Maybe the boys who had been there, seen it, done it, but not for me, because it was just such a big occasion. No matter what, it didn't matter if it was a new Wembley or not. It was just a big occasion for me personally. So all I was doing was focusing on, what I had to do in the game. That's all I worried about. I mean, I was probably lucky, really, because Ashley Cole pulled out quite late. I mean, he was set to play in it, but he pulled out very late. I think it was on the day of the game.
Oh,
so right. I didn't find out till late that I'd be starting, which probably helped as well.
What did Steve McLaren say to you as your first game?
No, literally, just because Ashley pulled out late, he just said, listen, Ashley's now ruled out, injured. Nicky, you're starting. That was it. We'd obviously worked on certain things in the training camp, and no, he was very good. He was a good coach, Steve, and he just said just to play my normal game. That's why I'm there, and that was it.
I see. I mean, I was reading it's a website, England Football Online, where there's a report of the game, and it says, I quote, "There was an excellent performance from left back Nicky Shorey, who did everything he had to do perfectly." Did you feel you had a good game?
Yeah, no, I think I've done all right. I think it was a solid performance, 7 out of 10, nothing more, nothing less. For your first game, especially against Brazil, happy with that. Didn't make too many mistakes, managed to do my job for the team, and would have liked to have maybe done a bit more going forward, but obviously you're playing against Brazil as well. So, no, it was a solid 7 out of 10, I'd say.
Yeah. I mean, I was looking at the Brazil lineup. There was some players in there. I said Dani Alves, Ronaldinho, Gilberto, Robinho was in there, and Kaká.
Yeah,
some players to come up against there.
Yeah, amazing. It was, just great to be playing for England, but to play against that calibre, them players and that iconic team at the new Wembley. Just like I said, even to this day, it still takes people to tell me, "Oh, you remember you played for England?" And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I did, yeah." And it still shocks me when they, because I just, it's in the past now. I'm living my life and getting on with new things, but it's something that will never ever, never ever leave me, and something that will go down in history. So when people do bring it up, I kind of, wow, yeah, what an achievement that was. And I, but it was just an amazing part of my career, basically.
Did you swap your shirt?
No, I was going to get onto that. No, I didn't. You know what? I was never a big swapping the shirt person. I got a couple, but more for my brother when he specifically asked me. I just think sometimes everyone's different, but I was like, well, no, I'm on a par with these players. I'm playing on the same pitch. I'm fighting against them. I shouldn't really be going and asking for their shirt after, because I feel like I'm not. I don't know. It was just something in my head that I just didn't feel right about doing it. I did do it a couple of times just for my brother because he nagged me enough. But I was more about, I wanted to keep my shirts. It meant more to me to keep my shirts than have someone else's shirt, because the bottom line is I'm not getting someone else's shirt because it might be worth money in years' time or da-da-da-da. I'm keeping it because it was for me. That was my shirt I played in, and that meant more to me than getting someone else's.
You'd earned it. You felt you'd earned it.
Yeah, definitely. And when I look back, I want to be able to have every one of my shirts that I wore, and I can sort of show my kids and grandkids, or not that I know where they are. They're in a bag somewhere, actually, somewhere in the house. But that was my sort of thought process.
Cool. I mean, and then there was the Germany game, which, if I'm truly honest, I'd try to put out of my memory simply because we lost it. But what do you remember of that one?
Very tight game, as you'd expect with Germany. They scored an unbelievable goal. It was a guy with left foot hammer from, 25, 30 yards out, top corner. And that was the only goal of the game. But when we was like pushing, huffing and puffing, and just couldn't get the equaliser. But it was a cagey game, really. It wasn't amazing. But again, it was a great occasion playing against Germany.
I don't know how to say this really, but although I say I put the game out of my memory, we did actually lose 2-1. It wasn't a.
Was it 2-1?
Yeah.
No, yeah, you're actually right. I just remember because of the first. Was it the first goal or the second goal? It was such a good goal, a hammer foot.
Yeah, Frank Lampard put us ahead, and then it was
flew in 34 yards.
Yeah, Kiriani and Panda got the goals for the Germans, but
Panda, I think Panda was the good strike. Maybe because he was the winning goal. Maybe can't remember.
Yeah, that's
evidently.
I mean, when I was doing my research, it only just clicked with me that you had a situation where your career maybe wouldn't have got as far as England, didn't you, with your foot injury?
Oh yeah, that was a strange one. It was a strange one. I mean, if it had gone untreated, if I couldn't get medical attention, it could have gone to a serious level. But thankfully, we got it sort of nipped in the bud quite early. But I remember playing, I think it was against Crystal Palace, and coming after the game, and the top of my foot was really hurting, and there was like a red spot on the top of it, and I just thought that's not normal. But I thought it was all right. And we then travelled, I think I'm going to say Cardiff away. So we travelled after that game, and I travelled with the team thinking it'd be all right. And I remember getting to the hotel, then going to sleep in my hotel room, and it was just throbbing, and it was like swollen. And I had to get the doc up in the middle of the night, and he looked at it, he said, "No, that's not right." And I got sent back to Reading, straight to the hospital, and then I was on an IV drip, and it was like an infection in my foot.
And I read there was talk of amputation, or is that blown up a little bit?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the one where if I couldn't get the medical attention straight away, then it could have got to that stage. But I mean, it was never really any likelihood that was going to happen with how quick we sort of caught it.
Oh, right. I mean, going back to England, and obviously you got the 2 full England caps, but that's sort of, it's not all though, is it? I mean, because you were a squad member and an unused sub on a few occasions as well. What's it like being maybe just a substitute unused or a squad member and going to all these places such as, say, Tallinn, Moscow, Vienna, and not being part of it?
There's kind of a couple of parts to it. I mean, you're so buzzing that you're involved with England still, and that prestige. And listen, I'd have done anything in the country, whether it's just training with our boys to get them ready for games and whatever. But then there's that competitive edge. You know, I thought I was good enough to be playing, and there was a couple of occasions when I actually thought, no, I should be involved here. I should be being able to contribute more because I believed I could. I think my performances showed that I could. I think the biggest one for me was Russia away, when Ashley wasn't there. Wayne Bridge was suspended or injured, and I thought, right, here's my opportunity now. It was a massive game, don't get me wrong. So maybe that sort of went against me because they ended up playing Jolien Lescott left back, if you remember correctly, and I was on the bench. And I just thought that's the point when I thought, well, there's no point me keep on being put in the squads and involved if you're not going to use me, because I was a proper left back. And that sort of, I'd say, upset me. It did, because I thought I can help the team, I can contribute here. And not that Jolien couldn't; he was more than capable of playing that role. But as a centre half playing at left back, it was a bit of he was out of position, you know. So
did you say, or say in your head, right, I don't want to play for England. I don't want to be part of it.
No, never. Whenever they call me, I'll go, no matter what. Even sometimes I was going just training and I wasn't even in the squad. I loved it. It was just everything to me. But I just felt like you have them moments where you're like, well, you question, well, what's the point if I'm here to contribute? I'm not just here to just make up the numbers. I want to contribute. I know I can. And that was the biggest game for me where I thought I should have played. I honestly thought I should have played. Everyone makes their own decisions, and I totally get that. It's no problem. Yeah. I was always respectful, always worked hard, but I just felt like I should have played that game.
Yeah. Well, if I've put the questions out to a few listeners, and I think we already know the answers to some, but maybe you can elaborate on them a little bit more. But a question from Dean Cornish: when you play for England, does it give you a genuine patriotic buzz? And do you think you care about playing for your country in the same way that fans care?
Yes and not no, but yes, you do. I mean, for me, the best thing in my career was standing there and singing the national anthem. Like, I will never be able to recreate that. That was such a unique feeling. I mean, looking up and my family in the crowd, I just can't really describe that feeling. It was the best thing I've ever done. And that was just singing the anthem. But it does mean as much a fan, because you are initially a fan when you first growing up and playing football. But then you're so focused because you're so professional in what you're doing, and it goes past being a fan. It goes past I do it just for the love of the game. This is my job. And you get in your zone and you kind of just block it out and you just get on and do your job, you know. So because you've got to kind of be able to control your emotion when you're in that environment. Otherwise, if you allow too much to come out, it can, the game can go away from you. Your performance can slip away. You've got to be able to control it.
Yeah. Another question from Hugo Malin. Did you feel that there were rivalries amongst the players within the squad, especially those playing for the likes of Liverpool, Man United, Chelsea, Tottenham? Or was this all sort of put aside whilst under the England roof?
I didn't see any rivalries at all. All I saw was people who play with their clubs and are used to being in the company of their teammates, maybe sometimes sitting with their team, but everyone mixed really well. There was no rivalry. We're there for England, and that's how I felt. I mean, I was quite lucky that I knew a few of the boys anyway through playing against them when I was a kid and coming up. So I never felt any kind of rivalry at all.
Okay. And last one, Dom Smith asks, Euro 2008, did you feel that the team were certain to qualify, or did you kind of feel that maybe something was up and it wasn't going to happen?
I don't think you ever feel certain you're going to qualify. I think, England's record on qualifying is really good. So when you do miss out, it's a big shock. But I don't think you ever take it for granted. But sometimes you have tougher groups than other sort of qualifying, and it can be difficult.
Yeah. So If I was to put to you one moment, maybe any 10, 15-second moment or any particular moment from that England career, be it B, senior or whatever, could you pick any moment out?
In terms of?
Just what your England highlight would be.
Oh, no, for me, it was singing the national anthem in that first game, Brazil. That just sent, I know people say it sends shivers down your spine, but that was just everything for me. That feeling I will never, ever get back. Nothing will beat that.
And obviously we're in a bit of a strange situation at the moment. We're all kind of left in limbo. We're all at home. We're all sort of in strange situation. Where does Nicky Shorey find himself, work-wise now? What are you up to now?
Well, I'm doing a bit of recruitment, scouting work. Something that I'm sort of used to in my family. My dad's been a chief scout, senior scout for the last 15, 20 years. He's been doing it, so I'm used to that. So I've been doing that. Done a bit of coaching before that, which was good at Stevenage. But I'm more on the recruitment side of things now, and still trying to keep my eye in the game.
I see. No, all the very best with that. Well, I appreciate your time and thank you.
No worries. Anytime, mate.
Cool.
Just give me a shout.
Magic.
No problem. Take care, mate.
Likewise. Bye-bye. Thanks to Nicky there for his time and insight. And as I mentioned, you can find him over on Twitter at Nicky Shorey 22. As always, thank you for listening and your kind comments. The month of May has seen quite a few Three Lions podcasts released. And I'm pleased to say I've got quite a few ready for June too, including more in the Your First England Away Game series, and we'll drop another England at the European Championships too. And as always, if you'd like to get involved, perhaps with your first England away game, or if you're an England fan from overseas, please do drop me a line. Email threelionspodcast@gmail.com, or you can tweet me at threelionspodcast. We're also on Facebook and Instagram. Would be great to hear from you. I'll be back very soon. I hope you can join me. So until then, stay safe, stay within the guidelines, look after yourself and each other. Cheers!